So let's start over.
Do you want
What?
me to say kind of like the same thing that I just said?
Yes. Well, let's start. So introduce yourself. So this is
Sure.
Gailya. So she's our top contributor for the channel. So I much appreciate her. And she's new to Midjourney and new to Discord. So this was kind of a here's the problems that she's facing. Here's the challenges that she has as a new user of both of these platforms, and kind of her approach to getting used to these things. Then I'm going to answer her questions and so on as part of this stream, so you folks can kind of understand where she's coming from. I'm sure some of you are in the same situation.
Sure. So, I just said all this stuff, so I'm sorry, Scott, you have to listen to it again. But um, I started like kind of my online chat journey, kind of like with AIM, and then we had MySpace, and then we had Facebook, and I was kind of a gamer in school, so I played like Ultima, Final Fantasy, a little bit of World of Warcraft, whatever. But Discord didn't really appear until I was an adult with a job, and gaming was like in the past. So there's a little bit of a gap there. My teenage son uses it. I still have no idea like I know he's just talking to his friends, whatever. But so as far as I knew up until recently, this was just a chat platform with different channels. So for me, looking for Midjourney, like I went to the website and it just looked like its own website. I didn't see any indication that this was like necessarily Discord. And then it wanted me to log into my Discord in order to use it, and that felt a little confusing. But then it was like a subscription, and I was like, I'm subscribing to a chat, or I don't understand. But like, wait a second, I can only use so many pictures, or there's a fast and relax mode. Like, I just want to look at cool pictures. So, as a photographer myself professionally, I love this. I hope that it can be a tool that can be used for inspiration, or possibly something that can be incorporated into more creative images that I create. But yeah, I think that like I definitely I definitely felt a little confused just kind of walking through the whole process.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean, Discord, as we use Discord quite a bit, myself and my friends do. So this is my Discord, and I usually put a link to it down below. I don't know if I have one right now, but I'll put one after we get this done and I re-edit it. But we use this Discord to discuss different things about the show and things we're discussing online from the live streams, as well as we do what's called a Club 79, which you can see over here in the voice channels. So when there's an image competition and there are people in it, there's quite a few people who hang around on this server who will join the Club 79, and they can chat privately in voice about the images that are being judged and whether the judges are right or wrong. That's
So
pretty
cool.
active. And then when I'm gaming, I have a gaming group here. We have a retouching live. So if I'm retouching something that should not be on YouTube, for instance, my body paint, then I'll put it in here and I just retouch inside of Discord so people can watch a live stream in here. And then I have another group of people that do boudoir photography and they have questions and comments and we share imagery and so on. So these voice channels, you're going to see in a lot of them. Now, Midjourney does have, maybe be careful what I show in here. Midjourney does have voice channels down here as well. So be aware that Midjourney does offer voice channels, and there's channels where people just listen to music together, and there's no chatting, things along that lines. If you're new to Discord 2, down here at the bottom are your major controls for finding if you're adjusting. Down here is your voice and video. This is the one that's probably going to be the one you're going to have to fix to make sure that you're getting all of your correct devices. And then you can also mute yourself or deafen yourself. So deafening will obviously mute you as well. So that's if you get a phone call and you don't want to, have everybody listen to you and you don't want somebody to be screaming in the background, just hit deafen and then take care of it. But otherwise, you just click on what you want to click on here to manage, where you want to be. So if you have questions about in general, for example, in here, every time I go live, the bot automatically puts a link to it here. But we have lots of questions and comments that come up, and people can post pictures in here, and then we try and separate these into different things. So we have a Midjourney one here right now. So this is a new one, and people are posting pictures of projects they're working on. So it's a different creature in that way, but pretty fun. So, and then you just pops back and forth. So that's really all you need to know about Discord. And it works great on your phone as well. So you can
Yeah.
use it on either device. So if you're in Midjourney, I don't use one of the regular groups, which I can't show because we don't show other people's work. But if you are in one of the general areas of Midjourney, you can see other people's work and other people's prompts. And Midjourney makes the prompts public, so you can go and you can borrow other people's work if you want to, which is really interesting. Now, it makes a lot of people angry, but again, it's not really their work yet anyway. It's their prompt wizardry, right? It's their learning to do prompts the way they want to do their prompts. Their prompts are kind of secrety. And I guess I'm kind of the same way. My immediate reaction is I don't want everybody to make the same exact image that I am, right? So I get that. So there's a private mode. So let's talk about Midjourney for a bit here. And I'm working on some other little goofy things here. But
Quick
if
question.
I want to do, I like your face on that. And put you over here.
Quick question about that. So when you say that you don't want other people to steal your prompts or whatever, does that mean that if somebody uses the exact same prompt as you, they're going to get the exact same image? Because in my mind, I would think they wouldn't. It would always be sort of something different.
So think of the AI. You're doing two things with the AI. You're telling it, you're giving it a directive, and then it also has noise. So the noise variable, or what we call the seed, is the term that's used for it, determines what type of noise it's using to figure it out, or what position of the noise. Think of noise as like static on a black and white TV. There's a whole lot of little tiny ones and zeros, and the different combination of those ones and zeros yields a different result every time. So when someone is working in Midjourney and they're asking for like this standing in a field of flowers, that automatically will generate a different image for you as it will for me. However, let's say, for example, you like this one and you're like, wow, I really love this image here. I want to recreate that exact image. You're going to go and type in standing in a field of flowers. You're not going to get that same image. Just like if I click reroll here, if I click reroll, it's going to use the exact same verbiage, but it's going to use a different noise generator and figure out what's going to happen. Now, say for instance, you're working on this and I want you to see like, oh, I really want to take what you've done there, Scott. I really love that one image. Can I take that image and continue working on it? Now, right now, you cannot, because job ownership can't be shared, but we can come close. And this is the other thing about Midjourney. It's not super clear because it's Discord based. It's based on emojis. So if we go up here to the emojis and I send an envelope to this emoji, it's going to reply back to me with the seed that was used here. So now I can do things like standing in a field of flowers. So I can see, imagine standing in a field of flowers. And then do seed and then type that number. That's my initials. Seed, like this. And now it will use the same random seed that it was to generate these.
I see. So
and you should end up with something very close. It may not be exact again, but it should be. Actually, it may be exact in truth. But that's one of the things. In fact, if you're working in Midjourney and you really don't want to see 4 unique ones, you say, I just want to look at the same thing. You can actually use same seed like this, and it will use the same seed to generate all 4 of the images you're previewing. Now, I don't know if that's real handy at this point, but it's something the system is capable of doing. So I'm just looking at watching this render and seeing how different it is from these images, and it looks like it's the same. So that same seed method will give you these exact same images. Now, this seed is not something that's public right away. So that is something you have to determine if you want to share that with other people or not. But that's kind of an advanced thing. The other thing you'll notice is that AR is following a lot of these. I think the square aspect ratio of Midjourney is difficult to work with. I don't really care for it very much. So by the way, if you guys can hear me okay, or if you have any questions or comments, throw them in the chat. I assume you guys can hear us now and everything's good because nobody's saying can't hear me or can't hear Gailya. So please let us know. But I'm just going to try and talk about some of the things that I use that I find handy. The square aspect ratio of Midjourney, I think, causes the images to be weirder. I use the portrait or the 2:3 aspect ratio, which is the same as my Sony a7R IV, because that seems to be more natural to me, and it's the kind of the direction that I want to take it. It seems to work better. So if you notice, I didn't enter this at the end of every single one of these things, and that's because you can use prefer suffix here, and then you can give it options. So AR, and then an aspect ratio of 2:3, which is width, height. So if you're more of a landscapey person, then you may choose to do the opposite. You would do 3:2, things like this. So this will change this from this square, which is what this, it's automatically like this, which I don't care for. So I use 2:3. That way I don't have to enter it every single time, which is also very nice. So that's that'll add it to the end of every single one that you put in automatically, and you don't have to worry about it. Automatically. I might turn my.
What about like, so every time it's generating this image, is it generating 4 or 1? Because it's being pitched in sort of like a grid. And like, for example, when you have the basic membership, you get like 200 images a month. So do you know if like each of these small, like 4 squares counts as 1 image or 4?
It counts as 1.
Okay. Yes.
But as we continue to dig into it, then it's going to start to cost you more. And if you want to know at any time, you can type in info as another command, and it will tell you. So for example, I have 917 images, or 15.5 CPU hours of work, but I work mostly in relax. So that means that I don't get billed when they're in relax mode. I don't get billed for them. So the only time that I use full speed mode is usually during a live stream when I need it to be responsive and I don't want it to hesitate. Then I will go ahead and use that method. But during this type of stream, then I don't really worry about that too much. So because it isn't that important.
Makes sense.
So I just realized my camera's not appearing. You get to be here by yourself because I can't display my camera and my screen at the same time. So there's that.
I will say that I did learn though that like you can only use relax mode if you have the higher membership, the $30 versus the $10. So for anyone who's like staying on that basic plan, you really can only work in that fast mode. So
yeah, that's true. So relax, you just type in relax here, and that will switch it into relax mode. And then now they don't consume fast hours. And really you might have to wait, but I don't find this to be a huge setback. It's really not gigantic to me. There are times when I've switched it into fast. Now, if you do decide to upsize one to maximum resolution, then you must work in fast, but it doesn't switch it for you automatically. So you have to type in /fast to switch it back to fast mode in order to continue working on it. So that's pain. It's a pain. And they're still learning what motivates people. And this is one of my critique was if something requires fast mode, just switch it to fast mode for me, please, and then switch it back to relax. So for example, if we take one of these images here, I really like this one. Now these, we didn't really talk about these because I don't know, it's kind of basic to Midjourney, but we're doing basic to Midjourney. You have the upscale, which will begin to upsize the resolution and add detail. At this point, it is really rough. Really rough. Don't look for anything in here other than kind of like it's a squinty picture. Like there's so much we're not seeing. So this is an upsizing of 1, 2, 3, or 4. Or you can ask for versions. Like for example, I really love this one. Are there other options? And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Midjourney is you continue to drill down into this rather than just say, hey, I got the one I wanted and I'm done. Well, how do you know? So I almost always will hit V on one of them to run a job just to see what it comes up with. And you obviously see now we're in relax, so we're waiting to start, and it was very quick. So it means that there's not a lot of demand on the GPUs at this time. There are times a day when this can take 10 minutes, So I usually queue a few. I can queue up to 3 or 4. I think it's 3 deep. And then I walk away. Then I come back later and look at it. I got a laser cutter, so I'm kind of playing with that right now too. So I've got like a bunch of little hobby stuff I'm playing with. So you see that's done already. So I click on that and see, is one of these something that I would like to see at a larger resolution? And I think I actually still prefer the original one, this one here. So I would just hit U to upsize that to give you an idea. Now we're upsizing that one. I'm also going to upsize this one. This is the beauty of paying the $30 a month. I can just, that's 5 images we just sent off. And I don't care because I'm working in relax mode and I just let it go. Now, the other argument that a lot of people are saying is, well, this is going to kill art. Art is dead. A lot of, I guess there's a bunch of music artists today that are saying, hey, don't bother hiring a photographer to shoot your album cover, to shoot some AI-driven art. And by the way, hey, buy our music and buy our merch. And I'm like, well, how far away do you think we are from AI-driven music, right? That's the next thing. And then are they going to freak out about that? So the secret to this is that it's not going away. So just embrace it. I use the example of the guy who makes the stone wheels for cars, and then along comes rubber and he's like, no, don't go with that. Dude, those suck. Use these. Embrace it. Find a way to make it unique. So I'm starting with these and then adding my photography into it. So I'm photo bashing them together, which means your Photoshop skills now become very pertinent. And we spent time at Texas school and you learned a bunch of the ways that I mix things together. So you've got a head start on a lot of people doing this. But, Photoshop or Affinity or any other photo editors. I've been using a lot of Corel Painter as well. I've been a Corel Painter user for 15, 12 years, something like that. A long time.
I love the textures that they're creating. Like I'm noticing that regardless of the actual image, sometimes the textures just in these artificially and created images are beautiful.
Oh yeah, and it seems to default to more painterly thing, which is why Corel seems to kind of, in my mind, step up into first place. Although I know some people do a lot of painterly stuff in Photoshop, like Sandra Pierce and there's Richard Sturdivant. There's a bunch of people that do some really great painterly stuff in Photoshop, but I tend to really like Corel. And then there's Art Rage is another one. I have so many painting applications on my desktop, way more than I actually use. But it's one of those things. I keep buying them because I love them, but I need to sit down and actually make some art with them. But this to me is removing the sketching or that aspect of art where you would sit there and you would brainstorm on paper, make little tiny thumbnails and kind of find out like a composition that you like, or kind of coming up with a rough idea. So as people who have idea blocks, this is the solution to that. I've run out of ideas. Where do we get inspiration? Well, movies used to be at, now it's Midjourney. If you want an idea, just go in here and type in some random thing. I don't know if you saw this morning a post I made on Facebook.
I loved it.
Midjourney, I'll bring it up over here. It was the
and for the record, I am one of those people that will sit and sketch out a photo session ahead of time, a creative one, and I have tons of just ideas that looking at this, I really could have put them in here and gotten a really nice visual of where the light should come from or what it could look like versus me drawing it all out.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a really great brainstorming tool is what I'm using it for. But this morning I put in the last selfie taken on Earth. I saw an article online and it showed one from DALL-E 2, which is another AI driven system, but it's kind of closed at the moment. And I didn't like it. I thought the image was terrible. So I just typed it into here and I'm really happy with, both of these are astounding. And I did not tweak it. These are the two of the first 4 that popped up. And I was just blown away. I'm like, holy mackerel, this is really kind of stepping it up. All right, so this ended, and you notice that when we're away from the bot, it made an alert, that sound Discord of someone sending you a text. So basically the bot sent me this and said it's done. So I can click on it now and view it. Now if we open the original, which will open it in a browser window, we can kind of see what it is we've got here. And this is still not upscaled to the max. So that's pretty great. I can really love that. So if we want to upgrade this to max, which is here, then we need to put it in fast mode first of all. So that's a little bit on the painful side. So upscale to max here. And then I'm going to knock it back down to relax. And I'm going to use one of the other buttons here, which is light upscale redo. So if you notice it, or if you notice this is kind of like it has a lot of detail, kind of almost like impasto paint effect here. That might be annoying to some people. Like they're like, I just want more detail. I didn't want you to add all that crunchiness. That's what light upscale redo does. Is it'll upscale it but it will not add so much crunchy detail. So we'll see the difference between the two as they both get done here. But here's our other one that just finished.
It's beautiful. So incredible that a computer is generating this.
I see a lot of people putting these up on in different blockchains as well. Like, oh, buy my art, I made this, and people go, oh, you're such a wonderful artist. I'm like, yeah, thanks. And I'm like, really? It's not your art. I mean, it is your art. By the way, Midjourney smartly, I must say, changed the way that ownership works now, so that you now own the images you're creating. However, Midjourney maintains the rights to usage, modification, and manipulation of that image for perpetuity. So it was the other way around, where if you were making a certain amount of money, then you had to pay Midjourney, and it was just weird. So now it makes more sense. Now it's more like a stock photography type of situation, where you're uploading stock photography, you own the stock photography, but the place you're uploading it to may use that image for marketing and other reasons. So now there is this that includes a commercial release, but there's a much larger release for I forget what they call it. It's almost like an enterprise level release that if you're a larger company, I think it was like a $2 million a year revenue or larger, then you must get a corporate agreement, a corporate level agreement with them. So there are some.
It's actually 1 million at this point.
Yeah. So there are some caveats there. Now at this point, this is only kicking out about 1,560 some odd pixels on the long edge, but I was listening to the devs the other day, and they said that at some point they're going to be allowed to scale these as large as you would like. So at some point you'll be able to take these as much as your pocketbook wants to pay for them. So if you want this to be an 8K image, then you could get an 8K image. You're going to pay for it. Another thing here too is it says upscaled, and it shows that it's upscaled to the max here. So now this is the largest image available from the bot at this point. If we go and we look, we can see the level of detail that it's added into this. And again, it's kind of painterly by default, which I certainly enjoy. Like, I really love this piece. A couple things Midjourney's crappy at. It used to be horrible at faces. Even as early as a week ago, it was pretty terrible. It was and you had to argue with the engine to say it was a symmetrical face, and you had to kind of, I even did a video on it, like talking about that you have to state that it's beautiful, or stating a specific type of smile or frown. That actually still helps quite a bit with the face, by the way. And using an example, like I was using some famous models or movie stars, or anybody who's got a lot of pictures on the internet that the bot can find, it will use aspects of their face to try and make it look more reasonable. That did help.
There's like some sort of like default face also. Like whenever I was looking, like I joined, there's also a Midjourney Facebook group where you can join and kind of see what other people are getting. And one of the threads was like, this girl keeps appearing in all of my searches. No matter what I do, it's the same girl. She's haunting me. And it's like, well, like face of a woman, generic woman in Midjourney. I don't know.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, yeah, there's a twisted face. It's obviously changed a lot in the last week, and they anticipate this getting momentum. Now that they said they've trained the bot fairly well on faces. Now they're working on things like hands, because hands and fingers are a train wreck still. And really it comes down to kind of the bot understanding how hands work. If it's gripping different things, it doesn't understand that kind of thing, and it's learning. And I'm sure at some point it'll just have a breakthrough and it'll work suddenly. But yeah, there's different things. Now let's talk about the images in general. Did that light upscale happen yet?
Yeah, I made the mistake of typing in pointy toes looking for a ballerina image. I don't suggest that.
And so the light upscale up here is still waiting to start. So by the way, if you type in your info, by the way, while you're in here, it will show you that you have one job running. So it's still waiting for this one, and I have no idea what jump does, but I think it just jumps to that part in your stream. But I don't want to play with that. But anyway, so you can always check and see what things are going on. So let's talk a little bit about prompting, because that's kind of important. I'm actually going to do a whole video on prompting, because there's a lot of different things that obviously you can learn from it. But one of the main ones I want to point out to people, and Bob was actually in the chat the other day, and I told him I was going to give a shout out about this tool here. This is the teapot, understanding Midjourney through teapot. So Bob hangs out in the Midjourney chat from time to time. So if you see him on there, but basically what it does is it's offering you information. So you say, here's your base. So here's your aspect ratios, and it's going to use Utah teapot for everything. But you notice here's that AR that we're talking about, aspect ratio, and 1:1 is pretty much the default. But he's showing you a bunch of different ones, and he's changing absolutely nothing except for the aspect ratio. And you see the randomness of the noise being generated by each one. So this is the base. So let's just start with an aspect ratio. Then there's prompts and arguments. So let's go up here. So it's movement styles and themes. So again, these are just points of departure. So you see he's putting here time frames, so 1400s, 1750s, going through wherever. I'm not going to go through every one of these things on here, but get the idea that you can kind of take and build upon that. Now I use commas when I do things. Impossible teapot, otherworldly teapot. That's fun. Social realist. There's complexities. There's different things. So complexities, confusing, detailed, hyper detailed. I use this one quite a bit. And some of these may or may not actually be, because I think a lot of people think it's like a command structure. It's like a programming language. You're talking to a bot that is learning English at the same time that it is learning art. So it's not great at English parsing yet. It's getting better. So some of these things, his examples are working because the bot does understand the terms. And I bet if you run these same tests today, they would look different already. So just realize that this is a kind of a point in time, but use it as a jumping off point for prompting. But some of these ones for blueprinting, for example, or sketching are just fantastic. Anatomical drawing, etchings, just fun ideas. But there's a bunch of them, and I won't go through all of them, but some of these other ones like lighting and dimensionality are pretty good. I've been using this perspicular rays a bit, so the God rays, those kinds of things. Volumetrics is another one. I don't know if that's in here somewhere. And so on. So this is a really great website, and I put this in the link below, I believe. If not, I will fix that later. But this is a really great resource for everyone. And he's done a fantastic job, and he's looking for more ideas too. So if you have ideas, throw them in there. I have seen some prompt generators out there, but the prompt generators do something wrong, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second here. All right, so here's the light upscale redo. So remember we were looking at this one earlier. Here, I'll put that over here. And then let's go back here and let's look at this one. This is the upscale light version. And you can see the difference between the crunchiness of it and the level of detail. So the light upscale redo can oftentimes yield something that maybe you prefer. You don't want it to go to this level. I usually do both because if I'm going into Photoshop, I did a video a couple days ago where I did an image of my friend Sabrina, and in that image I use both the upscale and max level redos there. Let me bring that up for you. This one here. So I use both the light and the max version to kind of combine them together, and then I went into Coral Painter afterwards and did a bunch of other stuff with it. But yeah, so just be aware that these light upscale to max and light upscale redo both produce very usable images. In fact, if you really like this look, you can kind of make that mandatory by using uplight as a command at the end. All the commands with the 2 hyphens go at the very end of the image. So that's just something to kind of keep track of. If you're going to give it directives, you can do so. Now, another thing that people keep asking me is like, well, what if I have an image I want to give it and I want it to start with that specific image? And you can do that. You can put the URL for the image in, and I was going to just give you an example.
That's news.
Let's go to my website here. I don't actually know. I'm trying to think of an easy way to do this. Let's go to my Tumblr maybe. I'm trying to find an easy way to bring up images that are going to be on the web for this Demo, I'm just now thinking would be a good idea.
I guess this is a scenario where having a few people using your image here and there isn't such a detriment, you know?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find, no, I got nothing. Anyway. So, yeah, and that's exactly, David Shepard just asked that exact same question. Is can you use an image to drive another image? Well, why don't you talk about how many kids that you photographed this week, because that number blows my mind every time.
Well, not this week. So we do a lot of volume photography, sports and schools and dance. We are determined to put Life Touch out of business and put photography back into the hands of local photographers at their local schools. But like on an average month, coming up soon, we have about 12 to 15 schools, each one ranging from 600 to 800, maybe 900, and we usually do them in a day. So, yay, very exciting. Not very creative though.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said for it. All right, I'm just trying to find a picture here on the web anywhere that I can use as a point of departure, and all I'm finding is stupid animations. So
I will say that one tip I learned like last night just watching one of your YouTube videos, like I don't think you touched on it, but I just like saw that you did it, so I wanted to do it too, was opening up my own message like channel with the Midjourney bot. So that way I didn't have all the noise of other people posting as well. So I didn't initially know that was an option until I rewatched like your video and saw that that's what you did.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when I have to look at all that. All right, so I just went to Unsplash. I thought this through. So we're going to use this one here. So I can just use this as a point of departure. And you just need the URL, so it has to be something that can be found on the web. So we would use Imagine, and then you would type the prompt in. And then by default, this has an image weight of, I think it's 0.5. But at the end, you can put image weight, and you can put a different image weight. And what that means is that it's going to use this image as a heavily weighted item in this, whatever it's going to be. But then I want to give it other directives, other things to do. So let's say, give me some prompts to throw at it. So a general mood or thought.
Mermaid, I don't know, in space.
Mermaid in space. It makes sense. Okay. And then the image weight of 1 is going to use this as its more important image weight. And it did not work. What did I do wrong there?
Are you using the colons to determine what's the more important?
No, that's a different thing. I thought this was correct. I'm obviously goofing this up. I forget. There's I wonder if there was different nomenclature to look around. I'll have to look at the documentation. But anyway, this is how you do it. You put this in here. But I will tell you, be prepared for disappointment, because it is not using that on purpose. They've said that it would be very easy for them to take an image and run from it, or to run toward it, but they don't choose to do that at this point. So there's a different direction they're going with it. A couple other commands that are pretty neat. So I'm just going to use this standing in a field of flowers because it works pretty well here. That you need to be aware of. The next one is quality. So quality is a default of 1, and it's full price at 1. But if you want to pay for a quarter of the cost, then you can set the quality to 0.25. And now it will only cost you 1/4 of a regular image. And it will do this same thing, but it'll do it at a lesser quality. So this is, I think, interesting. But if you're like, wow, I want the bigger quality now, well, you can go and get the seed, right? So now we know how to get the seed by sending in an envelope. It needs to be okay. Yes. Fen says it needs to be an image URL ending in a JPEG. Yes, you're correct. Yes. That's what was going horribly wrong with it.
Yeah, because they export as a PNG, right?
It's a JPEG.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we got this, but here's another cool command in here too, is if you use stylize. So stylize defaults to, I think it's 1200. 650 turns it off, but that's obviously not all the way off. But it goes up to 60,000. and 60,000. And now what this is doing is saying to the bot, go ahead and use that, what I asked for as a point of departure, but go ahead and start rolling dice at it, in a lot of dice. So it could be completely unrelated to anything. Notice that I'm getting pretty pleasing results from such a brief prompt. I think a lot of people push so much at the engine and trying to be so specific that the images aren't as good. And I think that giving it a lot of leeway by being terse is helpful. But there's that. So other things I like to do, I see a lot of people using commas. I think commas are fine. Unreal Engine is obviously a gaming engine, and it has a look. So if you played Witcher 3 or other games along that lines that are done in Unreal Engine, then you'll notice that it has a certain look. So you can say, I want that look here. That's one option. Something like this. You can also do, you can ask for it using a much larger, an engine used for more like quality, say commercial work, Octane. So you can ask for an Octane render. I'll just do a few of these so you can kind of see the difference between them. But they're going to look significantly different. Just like, and these are not like you're asking for it to be rendered with that mechanism. It doesn't have an Octane renderer or V-Ray, or you can use V-Ray or Bryce. We can basically use anything out there. In fact, those I think are on the teapot page as well. But you're asking it to kind of to kind of give you the look that an Octane render would normally have, or an Unreal Engine would have. So that's one that I tend to use quite a bit. But you can also do oil on canvas.
I did Norman Rockwell yesterday and got some pretty beautiful results.
Yeah, it's open. Watercolor, you could ask for line drawing, technical sketch. Basically just whatever your heart can imagine or mind can imagine, it'll probably be available on there. So now we are suffering through some stuff here. Let's look at this one. These are all very nice. Again, that stylized, like there's not even a person in this one now. This one's really interesting. So I like that one. So let's do versions. I almost always roll a version of something at least once. And it looks like there's having a little bit. Oh, there we go. Catching up. Someone had asked me too, there's a bunch of prompting engines out there and they're doing it wrong. And let's talk about the error here, because a lot of people are like, well, how do you know? Again, I'm listening to the developers talking and where they're going and what they're doing. And this is one of the things they were saying that's done wrong is you'll see these 2 colons. So standing in a field of flowers, we can put 2 colons at the end of this. And that means that's one thing that we want to focus on. So, so a dramatic sky would be another one, right? And then we can just leave it like that. So there's 2 different things being rendered here, and they're equal weight to the bot. There's one's a field of flower, one's a dramatic sky. But I can actually direct it, and now they're both equal to half. I can say I want this one to be equal to 1. So now the field of flowers is more important, or I could actually say dramatic sky is more important, and give it the 1 or the 2. So something more important. And then kind of see what it comes up with. Don't use 2 colons between every single term, because that's not really the way that it's meant to work. So by the way. Oh, Fen also brought up an interesting point. This is a really interesting point of Midjourney. It has difficulty with trying to render 3 different baskets of 3 different fruit. It's like the challenge that no one has been able to get yet. So 3 different baskets of 3 different fruit. No one's been able to do it. But kind of a fun little thought there. How do we generate referencing an image online? I tried to show that earlier. Basically, you put the URL that contains the .jpeg. It's the full path to an image online, and that is how you reference an image online. So you can see here. Well, let's go up and look at these, by the way. So we have field of flowers. This was the highly stylized, and we re-rolled that one. All of them are nice. Here's the Octane render versions. And you see this has a much different look. A lot of heavy depth of field is one of those things that Octane renders tend to have, which is what you're seeing here. You can also get the same kind of result when you type 4K or 8K. That is not that you're asking for an 8K image or a 4K image. You're getting what looks like more depth of field, a more aggressive depth of field with an 8K image than otherwise. So this one is Unreal Engine.
And that website that you said you were going to link to, does it kind of break down these different?
I believe he does. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there again, it's just like oil on canvas and 8K are two different looks an image would have. It's not that you're going to get an 8K version of one of the images. You know, it's not going to do that. So you see here, when we redirected this, dramatic sky weighs more than standing in a field of flowers. This is what we got. We got a field of flowers, but the dramatic sky obviously took precedent. So by using the colons, you can direct it to offer two things. They say 2 is enough. You know, 3, you're pushing it. And then more than 3, you're just going to confuse the engine, and you're going to end up with just a kind of a bunch of juggled stuff. So be as descriptive as possible with both your prompts, but you can have multiple prompts per image. I find most of the time one prompt is enough, and then drilling down into it. As I say, here's the oil on canvas versions. I like the default painterly look of Midjourney, by the way. I think it's beautiful as it is, so I usually tend not to direct it. But that's up to each person, obviously, as to what they want to do.
It's interesting because whenever AI art first started its sort of debut, everything was like inhuman and very painterly. Like you could just get a hint of a human. Like you could just tell it was, but there was no real limbs or anything, and it just looked like very, very painterly. So it's good to see that it's progressed enough that we can at least make out faces. At least on Midjourney anyway.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of learning that has to happen with both the management teams and the bot itself too. Somebody just typed that they subscribed to the $10 plan, but it went a little crazy and it charged them $145. So I'm not really sure how that happens. But I think your best practice in that case is pay the $30 a month and move in relax mode, which is what I'm doing here. And you just say, if you're in relax mode, you're at the mercy of the machine and when it's going to get you what you asked for. But again, I'm not, I'm not super aggressive at like I need it now kind of thing. Now, the queue is only 3 deep, and they're saying that they may offer a deeper queue for more money because a lot of people enjoy the fact they can just queue some work and walk away and come back a couple hours later. Like if you have a regular job and you come back after your next break or your lunch, you can see what happened, give it more directives, and come back at the end of the day. That I think is a really great idea. But yeah, I would actually talk to them about that because that's a little excessive. But you never know. But yeah, it is pretty addictive. There's a lot you can do.
I learned that last night when I decided to finally sit down and set up my account. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to be so into it. I'll just check it out. And the next thing I know, I was like, I was merging 2 images together in Photoshop and whatever, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. It is what it is.
Now, everybody does get a Midjourney app page. And it's midjourney.com/app. And then you log in with your Discord and it's going to give you your own page. Okay. Now, I don't find this particularly useful, but it is a quick way for you to be able to find your image, see what the prompt was, and then from here you can copy the prompt, copy the job ID, and because it's your job, you have the job ID, I think you can actually work with that. But if you go and you can open it in Discord and then go and get the seed if you wanted to continue to work on that image in some way. So this is a quick way to kind of get to your work. But more importantly, where it's more interesting is over here. So the community feed.
It's also a great way to keep track of how many pictures you searched.
Well, true. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to show this. I believe that this is open to any Discord user at this time. And because it's open right now, I'm gonna click on this, but I'm not going to delve too far into it. But the community feed shows you everything that's in the community right now. And because these are available, you could go and you could copy the prompt right here. You cannot copy the job ID. And one of the things that Midjourney is saying is go ahead and feel free to copy prompts, steal the prompts, borrow them from other people, learn the way that the engine works. And I think that's a fantastic way to learn. But again, is it your art at that time, or did you derive someone else's art? That's really your call. But if you don't want to share that way, then you can go here and you can mark it as private, and now no one else can get your images. Your prompt will not appear anywhere. But again, you have to have the $30 a month membership to do that. Did you have just ask about the ownership rights? They changed that recently, so you actually now own the image. So the images belong to you, but Midjourney does maintain the ability to market, distribute, change, modify, and so on. But the images are yours now. Anyway, there's some other things on here too. You have your own personal feed, which is the one we saw earlier. If you're following people, it'd appear here. You have bookmarks of things you loved. But some of the more interesting ones are down here. There's a map which shows everything everyone is working on, and some of the more active users, like some of these people have 2.8 images, 1,000 images, and it shows what they tend to like. And you can drill down and find people that are making similar images with these same prompts. So you can kind of see where they're going, which is pretty great.
This is incredible.
Ranking is a really great thing, and everyone should be doing this. I've actually started doing this myself. Is every day you create images inside the bot, or older. When you're in here, you can go through and you can find each job, and you can say whether it was trash, meh, on the sad side, meh, on the good side, or love it, and you're rating it. As you rate it, the bot learns what's good and what's bad because you're teaching it. And this rating, by the way, does unlock additional time for you. So if you're taking the time to train the bot, then you are actually getting the benefit of additional hours or images added to your subscription each month. And there's a bunch of them over here. There's the archive, which is the stuff you've kind of trashed. There's the dictionary, which is actually very cool as well. So the dictionary shows a bunch of stuff that people are using. And it kind of gives you a rough idea, a rough start. I haven't really used this very much. Some of the first images I started working out were with the Cthulhu ones because I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan. So I was hanging around in here quite a bit, but my images were better than that one. But yeah, so you've got some ideas in here that you can use. And then there's styles. Again, same kind of idea or concept of different styles or different artists. If there's a certain thing you're looking for, this is some places to start. And look around. And again, these are ones that people are using, and I don't think these are very good representations of the engine as it exists today. I think those are a bit older because some of these faces are not as great as they certainly are now. But again, there might be the way the artist does their thing. So someone just asked if there's a way to contact the Midjourney team. Yes, everything is on Discord. Everything is on Discord. So you find the Midjourney in here, and then go to the whatever the appropriate section is in Midjourney for feedback or help. They have newbie sections, but they also have sections for people that are paying for the service. And then Ancient Chaos actually here is one of the admins for the group, and he and I've been chatting back and forth. He actually came to a couple of streams before, which is really nice because he added some great comments in the streams in the past. So there's a bunch of information for you there.
I like that we can rank these. This is nice. Like, it just shows you like a series of images that other people have created and what the prompt is that they used, and then you rate them if you think the prompt was like appropriate or like it wasn't very relevant.
Mm-hmm. And again, you can do that for hours. It's an endless stream, and you're earning. From what I understand, you can earn additional time or additional images by doing that. I have not done that to a point where it's meaningful, so I'm really not an expert to say how that works exactly. But I always write my own images or try and write my own images. I'm a little behind because I've been doing a bunch of it. But those rankings help the faces be better, help the hands be better. You're training the bot because the bot is basically just looking through a bunch of art and learning what prompts apply to things. But it has to learn that through input. And that's what
so at what point are our own images able to be used in creation of this? Like if I type in my name, I do have images of myself all over the internet. Nothing crazy, but like whatever. I've got a LinkedIn or something out there. Like, is it going to be able to find me?
I would imagine so. I actually used my own name in a couple of them because I have a certain style and to see what it came up with, and it wasn't anything pertinent, But yeah, it was. I'm sure at some point it's going to be.
Sure.
But it's whether or not they tend to weight it. The way this thing works is not in English, right? It's its own language that it has developed for discussing these things or tracking them. So whether or not it's going to remember our names, and if we're just images or figureheads versus an artist, for example. Somebody just asked, to give it a reference image or a series of reference images to pull from, does it look at the style of the images or the content of the images? It looks at the style of the images. From what I understand, the content of the images, it really isn't into yet. They've kind of decided they weren't going to go that direction. So DALL-E 2, for example, is the opposite. DALL-E 2 tends to take the images and really push them, further. So say if you wanted to take an image and modify it, that's what DALL-E 2 does. This is more of an artistic interpretation of your image. So you're going to get a rough idea, but not a copy of the image itself. The other thing to keep in mind here is that the idea behind this team is not to create a deep fake engine, right? Everything they're trying to do is based on what users want to create art, not that they're looking to make deep fakes of things that already exist. And they're being very careful about that. I originally thought that the faces were all messed up because they were trying to avoid it, but I don't think that that's the case so much. Yes, it says, thank you, Scott. I feel like building up generated art in Photoshop or photo bashing is the best way to give your ideas reality. Yeah, I have actually really enjoyed the photo bashing part of that. I have several others coming up as well. I have this group of pictures that, a group of pictures, by the way, that is inspirational, or called a morgue, a fun little word. I have a morgue of images that I have shot myself over 2 decades. And they're sitting there. They're great images. They're fantastic images, but they're missing something. They're not done. Like, it's a beautiful pose, a beautiful model, beautiful flowing dress, but she's on a white sweep. And if I were to put that image out there, I'd be like, well, So now I have this. I've been doing a lot of stuff in 3D to make the backgrounds and make the scenes and add the people to them. And now this is going to actually add to that more, because I can take one of these, then add 3D to it, and then photo bash in my own work. I think this is really a great opportunity. So yeah, I don't want to stop at just here and say, hey, look, I made art. Well, hey, here I typed a sentence and I made art.
I don't know. I feel like, just if my personal opinion is that, how is this not your art? I mean, granted, you didn't paint it or anything, but you came up with the prompts. The machine is sort of like all of ours, really. I mean, whatever, make whatever you want. Who else is going to make it if you don't? Like, it's.
And I think from the perspective of 2 full-time photographers and what we do for our clients, this is not something I'm going to sell to a client, but this is something that I can use as a point of departure from making art to sell to my client. I want my art on a wall, and sometimes I'll print my work, I'll put it on canvas, and then I'll add paint with a palette knife to the image. So at the end, it looks like a very painterly portrait or something along that lines. This is simply an ability for me to add additional detail to that imagery. It's not a replacement of that imagery of that product.
Sure.
So looking at the questions here, how do you suggest we use it in photography, especially travel or architecture? Recommend for photo bashing. Same question for Gailya. So questions on travel or architecture photos. It's not what I do. So
I mean, I would think that, like, if we're looking at it from like a building architecture standpoint, like, this AI is going to look at all the images of buildings that it possibly has and try to create something. If you have a unique characteristic that you want to factor into that building, then you could potentially add that into your prompt. So it's going to find buildings and then try to incorporate that unique, variable that you're looking for. And maybe it could help springboard ideas for you on how to incorporate that. Like, if someone's like, oh, I want a building that also has a Ferris wheel on top. Okay, well, what can that look like? Like in New York or something.
And I've seen people do that. I've also seen, like, so they use that blueprint or a pencil sketch prompt, and they're saying, like, what would, and I was kind of daydreaming, like, what would a spaceship from that Cthulhu would use, for example, what would that look like? I kind of want to type that in now. Let's try it. So let's use this blueprint of Cthulhu's spaceship.
I'm actually curious now myself.
I'm going to change the aspect ratio of this to be wider then yeah, see what that turns out. No, I love the questions, everybody, by the way. That's really helpful. Gives us something to talk about instead of just like me, pulling out random pictures of flowers in a field. But this concept of I've seen dress designs, I've seen fabric designs, patterns. So asking it for random patterns or things along that lines, you can really approach it from a lot of different ways and get a completely different result. And everything doesn't have to be a dark and dreary image, although that is where my heart lives. I'm all about the dark and dreary, but that pushing that envelope and trying to do something really unique there is part of the fun of this. Confused. How do you narrow it down to one image? That's a great question, Christy. Yeah, you that's the ultimate challenge, isn't it? Narrowing it down to one image. And that's, I think, the beauty behind why I paid the $30 a month, so I can do this relaxed mode, because then I don't have to worry about it. I can just shake and bake all day long and not worry about that it's going to get outrageous on the bank account, which my wife probably appreciates. I've tried to get her into this, and she just doesn't understand it. She's like, I don't see why you would do this. But then this is also the same woman that I'll show her a picture, and she's like, why is there a bird on her shoulder? And I'm like, because there's a bird on her shoulder. She's like, I don't get why there'd be a bird on her shoulder. That is pretty damn interesting. Look at that. Wow. I love this one. I want to see that one bigger. And again, we can run variation. So I almost always variate one I like. I'm inventing a word, variate. Variegate, that'd be a better word. Variegate. Some of the images look very realistic. Yeah, macro is a great prompt. Yes, macro, photography, photo of, all those prompts. Again, anything that gets the point across to the bot so we can learn this will help. So running some variations on this again. And see, and I should have waited for the variations before I run the upsize, but then that's who I am.
I'm going to send you an image of a prompt I just attempted. And the prompt was a man named Scott and a woman named Gailya on Discord having a conversation about Midjourney. And this is what Midjourney thought that would look like. Let's see how accurate it is.
Awesome. Yes. How delayed is it to use relax mode? I don't find it horrible at all. Like, we're still waiting for this one, and we could wait 5-10 minutes. I mean, it really varies with what's going on in the bot itself. But usually I'm still looking, like I go back and I'll open these. I almost open the original because it's much easier to look at them this way. They're smaller in Discord by default. I love that it's trying to put some writing in here. I wonder what that writing says. This one's really great too with the circles. Yeah, it's just really, really interesting. And again, I could go with so many other things. Yeah, I'm really, really loving the exploration part of this. So, by the way, if you have been with us so far, thanks for hanging out with us. And if you haven't, take a moment to click the like button. That's like clapping. So if you're happy we did this and you want to see more of it, that's the way to show it, because there's no other way to. Can't really clap online, can you? So
I can.
You can. Can I open this in a new window? I cannot.
What about like printing these and like, I mean, if we own them, we don't necessarily need like some release or anything. Like, we can have these printed for artwork for our homes and things like that, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's no harm in that at all. In fact, that doesn't even interfere with the commercial licensure aspect of it. There we go. Obviously, this person has way more hair than I'll ever own, so.
So ridiculous.
Well, anyway, so that's I think a good wrap for today. We're at just around an hour, right about an hour, a little over an hour. So hopefully that was helpful, and thanks for hanging around with me today. I'll go back and edit the video and chop off the beginning where we had sound effects. So
no, I appreciate it. I really do. I just felt like a little lost in general, and I think that this clears up a lot and kind of gives me a little more direction with it.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to see what you're going to create with it. All right, everybody, I'm going to cut you off, and I will, I'm sure I'll catch you all online sooner than later. Take care.
Sounds like a plan.